You have another version of ChatGPT, which is called Advanced Data Analysis.
That's where intelligence gathering comes into the picture. No data analytics can ever do that.
Which is the worst name in all of marketing history.
I can tell you the story you just told is super common, super common. I've heard it countless times.
What are they actually talking about? What do they value? What are their principles?
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
And what I've found is it just doesn't work.
Yeah, so what? Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Season 1's Greatest Hits. And today we're going to be talking about AI. And, I've been running a business for more than 30 years, and what I've learned is if you want your success to be automatic, you need to be scientific, whether it's with your structures, systems, and strategies. And AI is no longer a buzzword. It's here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's helping businesses scale all over the world. So in this Greatest Hits episode, I'm going to bring you 5 of the leading experts around the world using AI right now to scale their businesses. And first up, we have James Skinner, who has traveled the globe educating people in AI, with AI, to empower innovative sales strategies to scale their businesses. Talking about ChatGPT and what is his approach to using AI to boost performance. It's a must hear. What would you do to implement AI into the business for companies to increase sales, performance, and profit in their business?
Okay, well, I first got involved with AI in, this is going to make me feel old, 1985.
1985.
So most people have kind of started talking about AI in like the last 8 months, and I'm thinking like, oh God, so long ago. So I was working for the U.S. State Department, and I was actually with the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo, Japan. And my job at the time was actually introducing U.S.-based AI technology to Japan. And after that, I went to work for NEC, which at the time was the world's largest computer company. And we were working on fingerprint identification systems. So all of this kind of biometric identification, iris scanning and looking at your face in the airport. And, oh, there goes John Rankins down Concourse 3. The guy who originally made all of that possible used to sit 3 desks to my left. Most people don't know this. He was a gentleman named Hara-san. And he was a mathematical genius from Kyoto University. And so I kind of been around this stuff a long time and have had a long time to kind of think about the implications of what it would mean when it finally arrived. And so I guess the first thing to say is it has arrived. AI is here. And it's amazing how many people don't realize that. For example, there was a recent survey, I believe it was done by Goldman Sachs in the United States, and it showed that something like 67% of Americans are worried about how AI will affect jobs, right? As well, they should be worried. But then you got to get this, John. These same people, 2/3 of them believe that their job will still exist 30 years from now.
Yeah, which is, not the case.
No, it's simply a ridiculous presupposition. So when I first started elementary school, we were living in Long Island, New York at the time, and it's the 5th Avenue Elementary School in East Northport. And I went in for my first day of school. And, they have the big kind of, reception, and all the kids come in, all the parents come in, and the principal gets up to talk. And this is, I hate to say this is like 1969. Literally, we had just seen the first man walk on the moon. And here I am going into the first grade. And the principal got up on stage and said, considering it was 1969, is the most amazing thing. The principal said, these children are growing up in a world that is different from the one that we lived in. They will have to change their careers multiple times during their life. We are here to educate children that can do that. And this was in 1969 of all things, right? And so the first thing is people are going to have to get used to your life and your career is going to be reimagined at a pace that you probably never desired. I remember when we built out Franklin Covey in Japan to their largest source of revenue out of 72 countries, and they decided they needed to own us, so they bought us out. And I had to manage it through the transition, and we had to merge Franklin Covey Japan with what had previously been Franklin Quest in Japan. And mergers are painful. Yeah, I used to call up my boss every morning And the day I had accepted that role as CEO of the merged company, I tendered my resignation with no date. And I used to call up my boss every morning and say, have you dated it yet? And he'd say, no. And I go, oh, are you kidding me, right? I got to do this for another day. And I kept telling him, I said, Royce, his name was Royce Kruger, one of the co-founders of Franklin Covey Co., grew it to $700 million a year. And I would just say, Royce, this is more growth in a shorter period of time than I ever wanted to have in my life. But that's going to now be the case for everyone. Everyone is going to have to sign up for more growth in a shorter period of time than you ever desired. We've just moved to like the whole next level of the video game, right? And we have a new set of monsters and a new set of challenges. And the old tools and the old approaches simply don't work on the next level of the game. So the first thing, most people have kind of played around with ChatGPT a little bit anyway. And I was recently on a television show in Japan called Sokomade Ite Inkai, which of course nobody understands, but it's kind of a prestigious talk show over here. On the panel, they had people like former cabinet ministers and a lot of really high-level people. And the topic was AI, and so they had me kind of in the hot seat, kind of explaining what was going on to everyone. And I'm going to say 80% of the people on the panel, after having played around with ChatGPT, had come to the conclusion that it was an interesting toy. Okay? And that is a very problematic view because it's not an interesting toy. It's the frigging nuclear bomb. Okay. And I want to explain why that is. And then maybe people can get a picture of from understanding why that is, understanding how it's going to change their business and how it's going to change their sales machines. Okay. So the mistake that most people are making is they think that ChatGPT is something akin to Google. So they ask it the same kind of questions they would Google responses to. And so they say, what was the GDP of Chile in 1948, Okay. And this phenomena of AI very confidently stating things that are not true is called hallucination. It's just making stuff up. That's what it sounds like. And so people say, well, I asked it some questions and it got some of the answers wrong, and so it's not that useful. But the mistake that they're making, this is a fundamental thing that most people do not understand, is that ChatGPT does not have a database of facts at all.
Correct? You've got to prompt it, right?
No, your prompts won't help. I'm going to come back. That's why I tried to say this 3 times. I'll say it 3 times again. It does not have a database of facts at all. ChatGPT does not, in fact, know any facts. Okay, so what it's doing is in 2017, and the great thing about podcasts is we can go a little bit deep on this stuff because we have some time. In 2017, Alphabet, of course, the parent company of Google, published a research paper on something called transformers. And up until that time, our approach to teaching computers language had been to try and teach it the meaning and the syntax and the grammar in which various words are used. So we tried to teach it words because that's how we learned, right? We learned language by learning words. And this approach completely failed, completely, utterly, miserably failed. We were looking at machine translation, and over the course of 20 years, its accuracy didn't improve at all. Okay, it got faster, it knew more words, but it wasn't any more accurate. It was still a disaster. So in 2017, some engineers at Google said, let's try a new approach. Instead of trying to teach it words, let's use something called a token. And a token is just 4 letters. So it could be like DOGG from doggy. So instead of doing words, it was just random 4-letter arrangements. And those are called tokens. And then those were converted into numbers because computers like numbers. And then they just started to do a statistical analysis of the relationship between every 4-letter block in the language and every other 4-letter block. These 4 letters often come after these 4 letters. These 4 letters come before these 4 letters. These 4 letters are usually located somewhere nearby. And so that's all it's doing. The only thing that it knows is that these 4 letters often come near these 4 letters. Okay? It doesn't know any facts. The only thing that it knows is that these 4 letters often come right after these 4 letters or before these 4 letters or near these 4 letters. That is all that it knows. So the way to understand this is kind of fun. So think of a couple that's been married for 30 years, okay? And the husband starts talking and he starts Well, back in the day, I went to Lake Winnewawa. And the wife goes, here comes that story about the big fish that got away. Because she knows there's a statistical probability that that's right coming right after, right? And that is all that ChatGPT is doing. But by doing that, it's able to talk. Okay? So here's the first thing. Experts in ChatGPT do not ask ChatGPT facts. Let me say that again. Experts in ChatGPT do not ask ChatGPT facts. They give ChatGPT facts and ask ChatGPT to think about the facts. And this is why it's a revolution. If it was just a more fancy database of facts, it would not be changing the world the way that it is. It is not a search engine. It is a reasoning engine. It has the ability to think.
Next, we're joined by Francis Kong, who's literally a legendary expert on leadership and scaling sales in the Philippine market. And he's written over 28 different books on leadership. And he's going to be talking to you about how he's utilizing AI and coaching some of the biggest corporations in the Philippines on the impact of AI in the sales industry. Francis is going to highlight why data is more important than ever in making smart decisions that drive your success. Even the young generation can embrace, like I created a 7-step process called sales. It's called SaaS, but it's sales as a service. And the first and foremost thing is all about the connection, like connecting to people about where they're at and what are their needs. Because ultimately, sales are still about relationships, and people talk more and more about AI and AI replacing sales. And, obviously, America is like advanced is in the marketplace and competition. They have laws that, destroy monopolies so that people can compete. And, that's the American dream. It's not like that everywhere in the world. However, AI is going to level the playing field as far as being a co-pilot. And that's how I see AI. AI is my co-pilot. It's ultimately never going to create a relationship that I can create by or through empathy like you talk about. But why don't you speak about what are your thoughts on AI and how it's going to affect, a salesperson, the sales industry, and where do you see it going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I've always been of the position that computers will never replace humans until today. That issue has been in question when personal computer came into the picture because of two Steves in the garage with nothing better to do than to create a dent in the universe, saying that we're gonna bring computer and made it personal. So people were afraid. The only people who were replaced were bank tellers. They were replaced by ATMs, right? But the bank tellers are still there. And I have been of the persuasion that says a computer, technology cannot replace a teacher. But a teacher with technology can replace a teacher without, until today. Because in our own company, we replace 4 copywriters with 1 professional writer and with ChatGPT 4.0. That technology alone can churn out a lot more stuff than all these guys banded together and in just a few seconds. So that alone opened my eyes and said, and we're just at the beginning phase of AI. However, let's not hype it too much. I will pull a line from Amos Tversky, who says, a lot of people study artificial intelligence. Me, I'm interested in natural stupidity. So, to think that AI can replace people with a dystopian view watching Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator coming in, that's just way out of line. AI is still a tool that can increase our productivity, but you got to be there knowing how it operates and how to use it, because once you're going to catch up, you're going to be left behind. But here's the key. While a lot of people are still studying AI, I'm anticipating deep learning and quantum computing because that's going to come in next. And if quantum computing now can absorb data and get all the contents of Wikipedia in just minutes or seconds, what would that mean? Well, it simply means the world is going to run out of data. So no wonder right now, these tech giants, they keep on with the privacy thing there. They're still thinking of ways on how to gather more data and gather more data because that's, a couple of years ago, we used to say data in the Philippines, we pronounce it data. Data is the new oil. No, oil fluctuates in price, but data is going to be the most expensive thing that's needed in an AI, quantum computing, deep mind saturated society. And that offers me opportunity.
Next up, we got Zach Benson, who, claim to fame is scaling people's Instagram and utilizing that to increase sales. And he's going to be talking about how he's using AI with social media, specifically with platforms like TikTok. Whether you're into social media or not, Zach's AI-powered content strategy has something for everyone looking to grow their brand and looking to grow their business and presence. How is AI going to affect the social space based on what you're thinking right now, and how can people actually use it to future-proof their business?
I'm grateful for AI and all the new software and technologies that are coming out. Your software sounds amazing, John. I'm excited for that, right? Because I think like the fortune's in the follow-up, and there's so many balls now that are dropped nowadays. So I think that sounds super smooth. Yeah, so I have this client named Devon Rodriguez Art. He's that guy that draws people on the subways. He's got about 30 million followers on TikTok, 8 million on Instagram, and 10 million on YouTube. So about, like 50, 60 million followers. This guy is cool. And he kind of did this comparison. He's like, this is what AI generated. So, AI can make art, it can do anything. And so Devon, my friend, my client, he specializes in oil painting and portraits. And he kind of did a comparison, like, this is AI, this is mine. Right. And I mean, I'll send you the picture. It's pretty cool. But I mean, AI pumps out some great stuff, but you can tell the difference, like skill, talent wise. Devon, his stuff is on another level. It just looks more realistic, more beautiful, like more real. Right. So I think that AI is good because it does, and software is good because it makes life a little bit easier. But again, like in the social media space and my world and with my business, Instagram, so it saves people time, which is a good thing, right? It kind of helps make their life easier, chops things up, edits their content, puts it into a reel or a post. That's cool. But still, the problem, again, is like, okay, how can we actually get this content seen? How can we actually reach the right people and target the right people with this content? Because whether you hire a graphic designer or you use AI to create content, still it's about getting it everywhere, right? And into the right people's hands. So we use AI for some things, but still like a Systagram, like that's like our secret sauce is because we have more human power, right? So we're giving people like their own like dedicated team to work and grind on their account, doing hundreds of thousands of manual actions every single day to grow their account. So I do think that AI is good, but human touch is a little bit better with social media.
Yeah, and people want to connect with the human. I've had a lot of AI experts on the show. I had James Skinner. He has his own programs. He's traveling the world right now with Robert Kiyosaki, talking about AI human. And he did the #1 TED Talk in August. It ran for just the last 2 weeks. It got over 500 and some thousand views. And he's the first one to do it without being there with AI.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about how, it's going to replace a lot of jobs. But at the same time, we all know in sales that sales first and foremost are about forming a connection with people and knowing, liking, and trusting. And the ultimate sale is when you have relationships and people understand your value. And last time I checked, AI is not going to allow you to have a relationship. It's got to be real. Now, one of my absolute favorite guests in season 1, Mafalda Johannsen, who's all about efficiency. Mafalda discusses how AI can streamline sales processes, freeing up your time to focus on what truly matters, closing the deals and implementing it into processes that allow your people to consistently get better and grow. You know, we have AI now, and there's a lot going on with the world. And I've had sales experts from all over the world, Jeffrey Gitomer, and a lot of AI experts on the show. And what do you think is the most valuable asset a salesperson can have to be great at sales?
I would say it's like a myriad of things, but if I could point one out, and it's a very boring one, but extremely important: time management. Like, if you want to be good at sales, you better be organized and be on top of your calendar. You know, like, I wrote a post on LinkedIn on the other day saying that Marilyn Monroe said diamonds are girls' best friends. For me, it's my calendar. You know, I don't care about diamonds. I care about my Google Calendar.
Because then you can buy the diamonds. You don't have to have.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. First the calendar, then the diamonds, you know, like, so I think that, like, and I've seen in my team as well, the most successful salespeople, as I said, there are many things that they have to be great at. But because the salesperson has to be good at so many things and have to juggle so many things, time management in an organization is crucial. Otherwise, you get lost. You get lost on the deals, on the prospecting side, on everything, because it's so many things happening at the same time, and more now than ever. Because as you mentioned, the AI and things are shifting, right? So first was COVID, everyone home. Then COVID was a bit, was not a problem anymore. People got used to it, to be at home and work from home. Then we have the recession, right? And now we have AI. It's like, even without all of these, sales, it's already a multitask job. And then you have the multi-touch approach and the multi-this and multi-that. And when you get on things, I mean, you really need to be very focused to be successful, especially nowadays, and especially in B2B SaaS sales. Maybe if you sell like an easier product or a transactional product, maybe that's different. But everyone who works in B2B sales, they really need to use calendar and AI now, because I know there are a lot of people who, and I understand that they fear AI, also because we don't know what's to come, right? We got, as I said, first COVID and the war, then the recession, now AI trying to steal our jobs. But I see AI as an amazing, as you mentioned, co-pilot, because I'm an extremely busy person, and I'm not the only one. As I mentioned, sales managers, sales reps are very busy. So now we have something to help us. And many of them are free, right? ChatGPT, you can use the free version and already helps you. So you have, I call ChatGPT the assistant that you didn't have the budget to hire, right? So now I have something that I can delegate the mind-numbing work that I have to do anyway. So I think that sales reps and sales managers, they can use AI to be better at selling or to be focusing on what really matters. The example I gave before with our AI coach, now the manager doesn't have to sit in every single call. They wouldn't do it anyway because they have so many things to do.
Yeah, you got 1,000 reps.
Yeah, exactly. You can't.
And they're dialing for dollars every day.
Exactly. It's impossible.
Finally, the sweeper of the show, Kyle Bamboris, shares his expertise on why data-driven sales and systemizing processes are the backbone of a successful sales team in the AI era, which corporations and companies around the world are going to need to stay competitive in order to have a sustainable, scalable company. It is total chaos, and you've got to have that structure. You got to have a system, regardless of your strategy, if you want to have scalability. So even I've experienced that running my own business. Sometimes we all need a checkup from the neck up.
Well, definitely. And being data driven is probably the thing I harp on the most, because with a sales team, first of all, sales should be the most or one of the most data driven parts of the organization. You can track every activity, the outcomes of all these activities, the drop off between different deal stages in your sales pipeline, and you can get a good visual of what your entire sales process looks like from an effectiveness perspective. And then you can say, hey, our cold call conversion is terrible. Let's focus on that, because if we increase that by a couple percentage points, then it's going to lead to hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue annually, sometimes millions, depending on the size of the company. But if we're not looking at the data, then we can't make those decisions on where we need to focus. And then we end up just shooting blind darts and hoping that we hit what actually moves the needle. And this is one of my challenges with sales trainers, is if we don't know what they actually need to be trained on, we end up training on everything. And we leave it in the reps' hands to have the self-awareness to know where they're struggling, where they're not, and they can apply what's most appropriate. The vast majority of them don't have that understanding. So what I find more effective is to let the data tell me where we need to focus, and let's do targeted training in those areas. So I take a very data-driven approach, because I think it unlocks a lot of the direction that we don't have otherwise.
For me, I even take it a step further, because there's links in the chain, and obviously, where is the breakage, right? Because once you find out where it's going wrong, if you check out all of the activity, like you said, it could be they don't convert the demo as an example, or an SDR doesn't convert the next call to a demo, right? So where is that break? And is it everyone, or is it just someone or some people bringing down the numbers? So I like to manage, track, and measure everyone individually and collectively, right? And that's what we do with the sales machine, because if you're really giving the same training to the top 20% who don't have a challenge, right, with closing the sale, or don't have the same challenge as the 80%, then you're going to lose them at hello. Because as soon as you start doing the training, they're like, fuck, man, this is not even an issue for me. An issue would be potentially for them not closing the deal, but upselling, right? Doubling the deal, tripling the deal. That could be there. And I find a lot of organizations are too general to scale the organization, because they're not looking at people independently or individually. They're looking at them collectively. I like to do both, so we raise the waterline of everyone. All the ships raise.
Yeah, exactly.
The water line raises. The standard raises, right?
And it helps you identify those things too. So what ends up happening is you have a rep who outperforms at a specific metric, and you can figure out what they are doing that's making them so much better at that metric than anybody else. And then you can start to systematize that so it becomes the standard. And that's exactly what you just said. That helps raise the tides for everybody. And if you can repeat that cycle, then what you find is you get real repeatability, but then your efforts start to compound over time and you get better and better.
That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.